Today I fucked up by forgetting to turn off the microphone and camera during an online class. The class was supposed to start at 10 AM and due to my new fucked up sleep schedule during the quarantine, waking up at 10 AM is next to impossible. Yet I did, with the help of a few alarms. The aim was to join the class and then go back to sleep. You have probably guessed what happened next. Having just woken up and still groggy AF, I somehow joined the class and fell back asleep without muting myself or turning off the camera. Everyone including my professor saw me sleep and snore during the entire class. All their attempt to wake me up were in vain, and then they finally decided to continue the class while I snored. I woke up to a mail from my professor to remember to turn off the camera and microphone from the next class. I don't think I will ever show anyone my face ever again. Too long didn't read, forgot to turn off my camera and microphone, and the entire class watched me snore. Do it again for extra street cred. Meeting host should definitely be able to mute participants. The class was on Google Meet. Maybe he doesn't know about this feature, or probably they had a good laugh out of the background noise. If it make you feel any better, a dude in a Zoom yesterday was yanking the old chain with his audio on. The teacher just kept on going. This is what I was expecting from this post. Accidentally masturbating in front of the class and not realizing it. So yeah, it could definitely have been worse. My pediatric patient is in 3rd grade and video learning due to COVID. He had his mic on while I was ordering breakfast, and the next thing I hear is, "Ms. Can we eat breakfast now too? I want a taco also, Mom, can I have breakfast again? This year is going to be fun." Dude, I think you're in my friend's class. He sent me a video on Snapchat of this exact thing happening in his class yesterday. /2 Redditor's own cup. Today I fucked up by drinking cream soda while driving. This just happened a few minutes ago. I'm still shaking like a leaf, but I'm slowly starting to realize how hilarious the situation was. So I, F18, recently began drinking cream soda. The bottles look a bit like beer bottles, but it never really dawned on me how similar they were until now. A few minutes ago I was sitting in my car at a red light. There was a half-drunk bottle of in the car, so I drank some of it while I was sitting at the light. There was a cop car in the lane next to me, but I didn't think anything of it. The light turns green and I go. The cop instantly pulls behind me and turns on full sirens and lights. I was shocked because I just pulled forward at a light. I was barely going 10 miles an hour, the light was green, I wasn't on my phone, I couldn't think of anything I'd done wrong. But I was the only car he could be signaling to, so I pulled over. And this guy gets out of his car and comes over to me as I'm digging around for my license and registration. He knocked on the window and said, "Mom, I need you to step out of the vehicle right now," and I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell is going on? What did I do? But I complied because I'm an anxiety-ridden person and I was terrified of what I might be in trouble for. He looked at me for a moment and said, "Mom, have you been drinking?" And I said, "No, I'm 18. He looked into my car, frowned, reached in, grabbed the bottle out of my cup holder and said, "Oh." After some apologizing on his part and awkward laughter, he explained that he'd seen the bottle and thought that it contained beer rather than soda. I was in shock and wasn't sure how to react, so I just awkwardly laughed and said, "Oh yeah, sorry, it's soda." Meanwhile I'm standing there shaking because the situation seemed so bizarre. Cop got back in his car and drove off. And I'm still not sure what happened, smiley face. Too long didn't read, I drank cream soda at a stoplight, and a cop pulled me over because he thought it was beer, resulting in me being scared shitless because I had no idea what was going on. Pro tip, next time keep it covered with a brown paper bag. Pro tip, pour beer into soda bottle appearing as beer bottle. It's the IBC cream sodas, isn't it? I was getting some one time at the store and the cashier tried to card me without reading the box. Damn these cream sodas for looking like beer bottles, smiley face. I got carded once for buying ginger beer because there was the word beer on the box. She wouldn't listen to me that there's no alcohol in it, rolling eyes face. When I was in high school I had a big thing for Henry Weinhard's root beer, which comes in exactly the same bottle as the actual beer they make. More than once someone thought I was just casually drinking beer as a 16-year-old. but fortunately it was never a cop. I loved that stuff. I remember when I was a teenager and the clerk tried to card me and I was clueless, so I just showed him my driver's license that said I was 16. IDK. This says you're only 16. I am 16. You have to be 21 to buy this. It's root beer. Oh, I guess it is. I got pulled over once back in the day coming back from a high school get-together. My friend had, for some reason, had a bunch of Pepsi and was feeling sick to his stomach, so he's moaning and holding his stomach in the passenger seat. My dad was a firefighter in our small town, so all the cops knew him. Officer Friendly was in the middle of telling me to slow down, 47 in a 40, and get home safely as it was after curfew when he noticed my body. What's wrong with you, son? I drank too much. I felt my vision dim a little as the exquisite cringe hit me, but he then followed up with too much Pepsi. After a few more questions he was off the hook, as he wasn't actually cognitively impaired by his sugary overindulgence. Had friends in high school who were parked in a lot after dark when the city park had closed. They had been rock climbing and stopped to eat some fast food. Cops showed up and searched the car. First they found an empty pack of his dad's cigarettes and were very accusatory. Then they found an empty brown bottle of root beer, again very stren and convinced they were up to no good. Last they found their bag of rock climbing chalk and were convinced a few high schoolers had half-pound of coke in an open canvas bag along with ropes, harnesses, etc. After over an hour they were let go with a warning to not be in the park after it was closed. Today I fucked up by offering sex to my teacher during class. First, English is not my first language, and this shameful moment happened a while ago at university in France. My professor was a prominent teacher in a specific science area. From his look and what he told us about his personal life, you could guess he was a very religious family guy, quite inhibited, and definitely not the kind of making jokes. During his classes, students were used to prepare talks about specific topics or to send him reports. So part of our homework had to be written while the other part had to be oral. So that day, he introduced a new project that we'll have to prepare for the following week. But he didn't specify which kind. So the stupid naive younger version of myself genuinely asked him, Excusez-moi Professeur X, voulez-vous un rapport écrit ou un rapport oral? Translation could mean, excuse me Professor X, would you like a written report or an oral report? Nothing crazy, huh? But definitely not what everyone understood. Real meaning further in the text. Professor X, staying silent and starting to blush. The whole classroom, bursting and laughing so much. Me, turning around to my classmates confused to see what funny thing I missed, then going back to my professor, Mr. X, you didn't answer to my question. Would you like an oral report? Professor X, still silent and blushing even more. The whole classroom, bellowing louder. Me, more and more confused of what was so hilarious. Then I repeat in my mind the question I was about to ask once again, because damn it, I want to know what freaking kind of project he was asking us. And this is when I realize what terrible thing I've just said out loud. I was so ashamed that I instantly got the same skin condition as my professor. But it was so funny that I ended up crying from laughing. The explanation, rapport écrit means written report, and by opposition rapport oral would literally mean oral report only if you translate word by word. But in French, the real common comprehension for rapport oral is blowjob, and that's what everyone understood. No, you can reread my conversation and replace oral report by blowjob. Yes, you can make fun of me, I deserve it. Too long didn't read. During class, I thought I was asking to my teacher what kind of homework we had to do, but instead I asked him if he wanted a blowjob. Was during ESL class. Teacher asked us where we went to during summer. I thought I said beach, but it sounded like bitch. Learned that short I and long E actually have different sounds that day. This reminds me that day I went to Target with my BF to get some new bed sheets. And as I arrived at the security gate I said, let's take a sheet and go. The security guard looked at me with a weird kind of disgusted look. He understood shit instead of sheet. This happened to me in high school at an immersion weekend where my German class met up with other German classes and had a whole weekend speaking in, well, German. It was very muggy and hot the whole weekend, and I was still in a phase where I'd wear pants all the time. Naturally, people would ask me how I am doing, and I would typically respond as normal and add, "Ich bin heiß," just to say to people that I was warm. It wasn't until the final morning where we all gather for breakfast. I'm sitting near my teacher, Frau, the camp counselors, and my classmates, and we get to chatting. Frau eventually gets to me and asks how I am, and I just say plainly, "Ich bin heiß." She stops dead cold and says in English, "Klaus, you cannot say that, you're telling people you are horny." My entire table erupted. Turns out a few of my classmates knew what I was saying the whole time. Motherfuckers let me go the whole weekend without telling me. As someone who speaks French as a second language, I'm always worried about making mistakes like that. There seem to be quite a few ways to turn innocent words into sex words in French. Pro tip: never ask if food contains preservatives. Preservative means condom. While the other part had to be oral. 10/10 foreshadowing. I was teaching ESL. We were splitting the students into two groups by going around and having them alternately say hey or ho. One girl wasn't paying close attention, so when her friend next to her said, "Hey," she said hey too. I corrected her by saying, "No, you're a hoe," and every teacher in the room stared at me for a second. And then I died of embarrassment. That's not really on you, that's a weird game.